Hi everyone, welcome to Ask the Pediatrician Live. I am Dr. Gbemisola Boyede, and I will be hopefully be joined very soon with some of our moderators. And so this time is just for us to celebrate the World Autism Day. And so I want you to start inviting your friends, share the video. You can watch me from our page, and you can also watch me from our Facebook channel. So whichever place you're watching me from, just share the video and so. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I had a little bit of disconnection. So just share the video and invite your friends and family. I think Abimbola is here to join me. Hello, Abimbola. Hello, Abimbola, are you with me? Yeah, we're live. Okay, so just share the video, invite your friends, invite your family, and let's celebrate the World Autism Day. So if you have any questions about autism spectrum disorder, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're lighting it up blue, and that's why I'm wearing my blue ATP. So you're welcome to join us. And so feel free to share the video, and you can post your questions, and we will be taking your questions very soon. But we just want to make sure that everyone is watching us. So this is just the time for us. Okay, I think Olua as well. All right. Hello. Olua.
Hello. Hello, good evening. Good evening,
Hi,
ma'am.
can you hear me? Okay,
Yes,
good
ma'am, can
evening.
hear
We
you.
are live already. Okay, good. We are live, so we're just waiting for people to share the video and for us um to put it on our watch party so that everyone can join us, and then we'll start straight away. So if you're watching, please try and share the video, and you can drop your comments as well. Let us know that you're watching us, so everyone can we can before we start. So I am Dr. Boyede once again for those who don't know me, and I have with me one of our moderators, Olaoluwa Philip, with us today. All right. Okay, I think Abimbala is also back as well. Abimbala, can you hear me? Okay, so let us just share the video so that people can know we're live. And let's share it to our watch party. Oh no, somebody's getting me to be echoing. And if you're watching us, if you have any questions, drop your questions and we'll be taking it right away. Okay. So I guess we are all set. Okay, so once again, I think we have about 13 people watching us now. I don't know what is happening to my moderators. It seems like they are having problem with the connection, so I'll just take them off for now, and hopefully they should be able to join me very soon. All right, so if you are here, you're watching me live, feel free to drop your questions and as comments, and then we can feature them, and then we will be able to answer them. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I have some slight internet break. I'm back now. Bimbala, are you there? Abimbala, can you hear me? Okay, Mr. Olalu, are you there? Hello, are you there? Okay, so if you have question on autism, kindly drop your questions. And for those of you who are watching on the watch party, um, our moderators will help me to bring in your questions to the group. So I mean, so that we can watch it, we can answer your question. I can't see any comments yet, so I don't know whether I'm not getting your comments or questions. So feel free to drop your questions and your comments. Okay. Mr. Lalwa, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
I hope my
ma'am.
mic is working. Oh, finally. Okay. I was wondering whether you can hear me or not. Because I'm
Hearing
trying
you
to
before.
see. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, very well, ma.
Okay. All right, so let's just go straight to the topic of the day. So we're talking about autism. As we all know, the 2nd of April every year is celebrated as the World Autism Day. It's a day set aside to create awareness about autism spectrum disorder. And so that's what we're just going to be doing today. I'm going to be giving us some information about autism. And if you have any questions, okay, is our audio having issue? All right. Hello. Hello, can you hear me better now? Hello. I think I'm going to roll. Okay, if you can hear me, let me know you can hear me, because I seem like I'm not sure whether I'm communicating with people. Ololuwa, can you hear me? All right, I need to check my mic is working. Hello. Okay. If you're listening to me and you can hear me, let me know you can hear me. I'm not so sure whether people with me can hear me. Hello. All right. Ololuwa. Okay, I think I'm just going to go solo today, because I think having difficulty with the people who are joining me on the as my moderators. All right, so we'll just go straight on and talk about autism spectrum disorder. Elsie, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to be talking about autism spectrum disorder, and while waiting for your questions, I'll just go on and talk a little bit about autism spectrum disorder. I think I'll just give a short time again. Omolara, can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so let's just go with the 2 hours and then just move on. Okay, so we're talking about autism spectrum disorder. So what is autism spectrum disorder? Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability. So what we mean by something developmental disability is it is something a child is born with. It's something that children have as they grow along. So it's something that happens in childhood. Basically, that's what it means when we talk about autism spectrum disorder. And it affects children basically in terms of their social interaction, communication, and in terms of their behavior. So it's one of those developmental conditions that occur in childhood, and it can affect them in the area of their social interaction, communication, and sometimes they can have behavioral challenges as well. So just to say that if you have any question, please drop your questions under the topic, under the page or the YouTube, whichever place you're watching from. And for those who are watching on the watch party, I want our moderators to please help us move down the questions to the page so that we can answer them, because I can only see one person talking to us here. So that is what autism is all about. And what that means is that people with autism, they have difficulty in the way they communicate. So sometimes they may not talk on time, or they may have speech delay, and sometimes some of them can actually talk, but then they also struggle with in terms of the what we call the social aspect of communication. So sometimes they take things very literally, and sometimes they say things that may come across as being, no filter, just black and white. And sometimes they also struggle with social interaction. So most people with autism spectrum just like to be by themselves. Sometimes they don't like to interact, or sometimes they interact, but it's like they can be too over familiar with strangers and things like that. So these are the things that you can see in people who have autism spectrum disorder, and sometimes they have some peculiar behavior, what we call, sometimes they can do things repetitively, or sometimes they can, behave in a way that people may wonder that doesn't look, appropriate, or they may be very particular about why they want things or things being done in a particular way. So these are the things you see for people who are on the autism spectrum disorder. So basically they have problem with the social skill, emotional skills, and communication skills. So one of the questions people always want to know is that how do I know if my child has autism or not? Now, there's no blood test or laboratory test or imaging that will show you whether your child has autism or not. So, but there are signs that you can pick up, and if you pick up those signs, then you can begin to think, oh, does my child has autism? Does my child need to be evaluated for possible autism spectrum disorder? So I'm just going to be running through those signs that you may see that will help you to know whether your child may have autism spectrum disorder or not. So we'll just be posting them on the page, and then I think I'm just going to mute the mic of my moderators, and then we can now talk about them if you have concerns. So these things have been written in a way that it will be easier for us to understand. So they're written in very simple language, because I know we're talking to parents and of children. So I'm just going to go through them one after the other. So signs of autism can occur in children very early, and sometimes even parents can start, to suspect that there's something going on even with their child as early as even before 1 year. We just need to, but most people are not really sure. Maybe just maybe the child is just different. But usually by the age of 18 months, most children usually begin to have obvious signs that will help us to know whether they are on the autism spectrum or not. So I'm just going to be showing those signs. Again, this is a live open house. So when we say open house, it means you can ask me your questions. So please feel free to drop your questions on the page, and then I can answer them. Okay. So right now I'm not seeing anybody asking questions, and for our moderators, if you're on the watch party, please help us to transport the questions the usual way onto our page so that we can answer them, because we won't be able to see the questions on the page or YouTube unless you could drop them directly on the page or on the YouTube channel. So this is what we're trying to do now. Amalara, can you hear me now?
Very well, ma. Good evening, ma.
Okay, so fine. You're welcome. Mr. Olua, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So just feel free to also interact. In other words, if you have anything you want to say about what we're talking about. So it's not that I'm the only one talking. We apologize for the initial glitches that we have. This is a challenge with using technology. Sometimes it can be a bad servant, but I think we're good now, and we'll just continue. So again, I'm just going to be talking about what are the signs that you will see that will make you to think, oh, could my child be on the autism spectrum or not? So one of the signs is that most children by the age of 1 year, even before they begin to talk, they usually will point. They use what we call the middle finger to point to what they want, even when they don't know the words to use. So most children by 1 year should be pointing with the index finger. So if a child is not pointing, then you begin to wonder this could be a sign. Now, I want to be able to specify that one of the things I'm going to say will automatically means that your child has autism spectrum disorder. I don't want us to take it that way. Some of these signs can occur in other children who don't have autism, but when you begin to have multiple of all these signs in one particular child, then it makes us to worry about possibility of that child being on the autism spectrum. It does not mean the child has autism. It does mean that we need to evaluate that child for possible autism spectrum disorder. So I don't want anybody to start to panic because Dr. Gbemi said this and my child is not doing that. And they begin to think, okay, you begin to give your child a diagnosis. You can't give your child a diagnosis by yourself. So we need to evaluate the child, but there are signs that you can see as a parent that will make you to think, oh, could my child be on the autism spectrum? Okay, yes, I'm beginning to get comments now. So that shows that people are now watching me live. Okay, so Chawu is not pointing that the most of them, by the time they start talking, by 18 months thereabout, they begin to point to show. In other words, so a child will see aeroplane, and then they will point to show the aeroplane to the parent, and they will say, oh, mommy, see airplane. A child should be pointing. In other words, the child has seen something, and the child is also trying to get you as the parents or whoever is around the child to also look, what we call joint attention. So usually, if you're not seeing that sign in a child, we begin to worry. Another thing is that children should be able to look. In other words, if you tell them, XYZ, look at that, they should be able to turn and look at what you're showing them. So if most children on the autism spectrum don't do that, or they will look but they can't really pinpoint what you're trying to show them. So that's another sign of autism. So they are not able to focus on a particular, they're not able to follow a point. They're not able to look just by telling them, unless you describe it to the details. Some of them cannot look at what you're trying to say, but most children, if you just say them, look at that, they should be able to turn their eyes and look at what you're showing them. And then you should be able to say, oh, that is, they know what you're talking about. So that's one of the early signs of autism as well. Another sign is these children have problem with playing with other children. Most children, when they see other children, they want to play. They are interested in other people. So they see other children, they want to be around them, they want to play with them. But children who are on the autism spectrum sometimes struggle with that. So they struggle with social interaction. So this is one of the main features that we also see in people who are on the autism spectrum. So they struggle with interaction with other people, and so if a child doesn't want to play with other children, just wants to be on his own, even when other children are coming to him or her, the child just wants to be on by his own self, then we begin to worry about possible autism spectrum disorder. Now, another sign that you can also see that children with autism also sometimes avoid what we call eye contact. So they don't look you in the eyes. Most of us, when people are talking to you, even though I can't see most of you at home now, but I can see Molara here, I'm actually looking at your eyes. I'm looking at you, and when you're talking to me, you're looking into my eyes. We do a lot of communication just with our eyes. So if I'm not happy, you can see it from my eyes. If I'm hungry, but children with autism spectrum, they can be talking to you without looking at you. Or you are talking to them, they don't turn to look at you. Even when they call them, sometimes they don't turn to look. So when a child is not responding to their name, even though you've checked their hearing, there's nothing wrong with their hearing, and they don't also maintain eye contact, it's a sign that you should be watching out for possible autism spectrum disorder. Again, before I continue to go on, I want you to remember that none of these single signs, not one of those signs automatically means autism. So I really always want parents to understand that, because parents will say, oh, but my child can do this, but can't do this, doesn't mean the child has autism. It is not just one sign. The child must have many of them. In fact, we have what we call criteria. So the child must tick certain number of boxes before we say, yes, we're convinced that this child is on the autism spectrum. But if the child gets only one and he doesn't have the rest, we're not going to say the child is on the autism spectrum. Okay, so I really don't want anybody to start getting scared that, okay, my child is not doing this, that means the child has autism. So we have one question. So I'm going to be taking the question as I'm also presenting along, so that we would not wait to the end before we have our question. Okay, Omalara, can you read that for us?
Okay, Adana Igwebi. My question is, I have two girls with autism, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Few similarity, but so many different signs. I would like to have a third child. How likely is it I will have a child with autism again?
Wow, that's a very important question. And yes, and it's a very hard question as well. Number one,
Yeah, it is.
Yes, number one, there is a risk of there's a genetic link when it comes to autism. When it comes to autism, we don't know. I'm still going to actually get to that later, but the truth of the matter is that most time we don't know the cause of autism, but we have some idea on why children may have autism. So we think it's a mix of both genetic, environmental, and biologic factors. So it's a mix of many things. But for your family, from what you've told me, I think there's a strong genetic link here. So you already have 2 children who are on the autism spectrum. Yes, autism tends to run in certain family. So what we normally do in this kind of scenario is to do a genetic test. We need to know what gene we're talking about. Why are many people in the same family having this autism? And that will help. So usually somebody like you will refer you to see a genetic expert, a consultant who is into genetics. So they will do genetic tests for the children. If they're able to identify the gene, they will also test you, the parents, both you and your husband and other family members, to know whether it's something that is passed on, and that will help them to be able to advise whether it's something that can happen again. It can happen, that's the honest truth. But I can't tell you what is the percentage that it can happen. Is it 50%? Is it 25%? Is it 100%? That's what I'm not so sure about. But the genetic doctors are the ones that can answer that. And the only way they can also answer that is by doing genetic tests for your children. So when they do the genetic test and they are able to know, okay, yes, your children are likely going to be on the spectrum or not. So these are the ways by which that can happen. But your question, to be honest, has brought to the light the fact that as made me to jump into the causes of autism. There's a strong genetic link with autism. We know that boys are 4 times more likely to have autism than girls. So that's also, there's a genetic link. And when a family member already has autism, the chances of other siblings having autism is also higher compared to the general population, which is, I think, what you are saying. It's not really very common in girls. That's why your family is quite interesting to me. So if you have 2 girls with autism, I'm really curious to what gene are we talking about, and we need to know whether it's possible to happen again or not. All right, so just people thanking us. Thank you for joining us, and please share the video and let other people join us as well. And you can watch on Facebook. For those who are not on Facebook, they can watch on YouTube. It's available for everyone. So we'll just go back to the signs. Looking at
Can I just ask a question relating to the question that Adana asked? Okay, talking about having 2 child with autism already, does that mean that the autism can be hereditary?
Yes, that's what we mean. So that's exactly what we mean by saying it's either hereditary or genetic. When we say genetics, when we say hereditary, we're saying the same thing. So that's what genetics is all about. Yeah, you're right. So let's just continue with the signs. Please, if you have questions, we are here to answer your question. It's an open house, so we're going to talk everything and anything you want to talk about autism spectrum disorder. Once again, today is the World Autism Day. It is a day that is set aside globally. The 2nd of April of every year is set aside for us to celebrate the World Autism Day. And basically what we do on that day is to create awareness, let people know what is autism. And usually the color for autism is blue. So you like it have blue for autism. So I'm still talking about the signs. So we talk about the fact that people with autism may struggle to understand other people's feelings. They struggle to understand other people's emotion, and they also struggle to communicate their own emotion as well. So sometimes you see people with autism spectrum disorder, somebody may be crying by their side and they don't care. They come across as if they don't care because they just keep on doing what they are doing, or they may even laugh at it, and people wonder, why would you do that? So sometimes it is important that people understand people who have autism spectrum. It is part of the autism, so they may struggle to understand feelings and emotion. Sometimes children with autism spectrum, they struggle with cuddling. Which is one of the things that normally breaks most of my mother's heart, that their children don't want to cuddle them. You want to cuddle them, they were like, they don't want it. So most of those parents really struggle with that because, most mothers, you like the feeling. Most children with autism don't, sometimes they don't like it. And sometimes parents really, really struggle with that, but that's just who they are. And it's one of the signs of autism. And then another sign of autism is the they may appear not to be unaware. You know, you may be talking to them and it feel like you're not talking to them. So most
They
parents
don't care.
Yes, sometimes parents always wonder, is it that the child is deaf? So most times they'll go and do hearing tests. But some parents have not done hearing tests. But the way they know that the child is not deaf is because when the child, let's say the child is in another room, maybe 5 rooms away from the TV, but when the television goes up with a favorite cartoon song or whatever, they will hear and they will come out. But that same child will be standing in front of you, and you are calling their names, they may not respond. So they have what most of my parents will call selective hearing. So this is something that you also get in kids on the autism. So they seem to be selective in what they respond to. They don't tend to respond to human words and all that. So that's one of the signs of autism. Sometimes they are interested in people. So autism is a spectrum. So sometimes I struggle with people who sometimes struggle to understand autism, because some people have this picture in their head that autism just means, oh, when you have autism, you don't talk to people, you don't look at people, you don't talk at all, you don't do anything. No, autism is a spectrum. So it's very from one child to another child. In fact, just like that mom said in her question, even though she has 2 children both on the autism spectrum, they are not going to be exactly the same. One child will do one thing, another child will not do it. Another child will be able to do one thing, another child will not be able to do it. So they'll be different, but the main underlying traits, characteristics will still be there. All of them will still struggle with social interaction. All of them will still struggle with communication. All of them will still struggle with behavior issues. So autism varies. So like I said, I always want to reiterate that before people will think, because I've seen people telling me, oh, but my child look at me, that means the child can have autism. No, a child looking at you does not mean the child cannot have autism. Or some people tell me, oh, my child is talking, but that doesn't mean that does not have autism. A child can talk and still have autism. We have people who are talking very fluently and they are autistic. So we need to understand this very well. So sometimes people on the autism spectrum may actually be interested in people, but they don't know how to play. They don't know. So some of them, you see them pushing the children, you see them pulling them. Sometimes it's just their way of saying, I want to play with you, but I don't know what is appropriate, how to go about doing it. So these are some of the
We have some questions here.
Okay.
We have some questions already coming in. So Aisha Momodu Ozage said, I have a question, ma. Do autistic children achieve developmental milestone the same rate as normal children?
Very good question, Aisha. So what that means is that some children on the autism spectrum have what we call they develop their developmental stones are normal. They have what we call, and they have normal intelligence. So 50% of children on the autism spectrum actually have normal intelligence and normal developmental milestones. And some of them actually have above average developmental, in terms intellectual quotients and all that. Very, very intelligent children. But another set of children also had they have delayed development, so they didn't achieve the milestones on time, and they may also have moderate to severe intellectual disability. So that is why autism is a huge spectrum. So sometime before, we used to talk about high functioning autism and all that, but now we've tried to eradicate all those terminologies and we just talk about autism spectrum disorder. But in the mix of autism, so you have people who are high functioning, who are going to be professors, who are going to go to universities and all that. But you also have people who you also have children who need people to help them wipe their bum after they finish toileting. You have people who cannot talk at all, who will be non-verbal, who will never talk. So you also have that spectrum. So it's a huge spectrum from very high functioning one to the very low functioning set of children. So Aisha, some children with autism have normal development, and some of those children, people don't tend to bring them on time because they tend to do things normally. They spoke on time. They did every other thing on time. But as they grow older, people start noticing that they struggle with social interaction. They have their peculiar way of their rigidity about doing things, and someone things you can, some behavior that you can't explain, and that's when parents start to know that, oh, there's something wrong, and then they begin to want to know more about it. I think Ololuwa should be the one
Thank
to
you,
read
ma.
the question. Yeah.
Yes, ma. Bukola Oshungbon, what can an expectant mother do or do not do to afford giving birth to baby with autism?
Okay. So there are lots about things about autism we don't know. The answer to that question is that there's really nothing you can do. I think that's the truth to that. Most people that have children with autism don't really know they're going to have children with autism. So it's difficult to say. Some people may know, like for example, if you already have children who have autism spectrum disorder, who already have if you already have some genetic traits running your family, you can do some genetic tests before you have your children, and you can now decide, do I want to have this baby or not? So there are ways to know, but most of the time we don't really know. We don't know who is going to we don't know which child is going to have autism or not. So most of the time, there's really nothing you can do as a mom to prevent autism, except if you already have family history of genetic linked autism, and then you can go for genetic tests. So the genetic doctors, consultants can text you when your baby is still in the womb, and then they will now decide whether you will decide whether you want to have the baby or not. So that's that. All right.
So the next question that we have here, I think you have already spoken about it, and the Oyeka HRI is asking, please, ma, does an autism child talk? You've made mention of the answer in one of the previous questions.
Yes, an autism child can talk. Some of them are delayed in their talking, but not all of them are delayed, So some will talk on time. Some will may not talk on time. Some will be delayed. Majority of them will eventually talk. So we used to say by the time they're about 5 years old, if the child is talking, that's good. That's it. It's actually what we call, it's one of the prognostic factors for us. So in other words, a child who is talking by 5 years is a good sign that the child will actually do very well. But a child who is not talking by 5 years, it's not so good. But that does not mean, the children surprises all the time. So we've seen children who talk at 10 years. So sometimes this thing happen. We have our medical knowledge, but sometimes the children just surprise us. So it's anything is possible. But majority of them will be talking by the time they're 5 years old.
Okay. Olalu, are you there? Okay, the next question is from.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. It's like I'm losing Molara as well. Okay, Faith of 4 years asking. It's part of the autism. It's part of the autism picture that children with autism spectrum disorder, they just don't like this show of affection and all that. It's just one of the features of autism. It's not like I'm not so sure what you mean by the medical reason. We can't always explain everything. That's just who they are. That's just how they are. So it's not like there's anything medical reason. They just choose to do what they want to do. And so that's just it. Okay. I think Aisha is just thanking us for answering.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to the science again, just reading all the science. I think Ololuwa is back. I hope we can keep it. Okay, so I've mentioned that maybe people, they don't know how to do it. Another sign you see in children with autism spectrum is the fact that they repeat a lot of words. So people say things to them and they echo back, what we call echolalia, they're like parroting, So they would just say what you say back to them. For example, you tell an autistic child, "How are you?" Instead of the child to say, "I am fine," then the child will go, "How are you?" back to you. Or they can recite everything they watch on the TV. They can say it word for word back to you. And you're like, Where did they get those amazing memory from? So it's one of the things that children on the autism spectrum disorder can do. So if you see a child who is always repeating whatever you say back to you, you should think about that, and you may want to let us evaluate the child. Another thing is that sometimes they have difficulty expressing their needs and emotions. Sometimes they use words that are not clear. So, for example, they may decide to pick a particular word and a particular word that makes sense to them to represent something, which not necessarily does not mean it's not what all of us would have called that word, so they may have their own word. Sometimes they call themselves by another name different from their names. I see someone child recently who wants to call himself Henry. His name is not Henry, but he so much has this addiction to Henry the Hoover. And so that's another thing you see in children with autism. They have some obsession, if you like to call it that way. They're just interested in some topics. They will know virtually everything about that topic, or they may be interested in a particular object. They go everywhere with that object. They can't separate it from them. I've seen some of them who, even though they are 16 years old, they still have their toy that they have when they were like 5 years old, and they
Child.
Yes, and they will not get rid of them. So these are things that you can see in kids with autism spectrum disorder. They struggle with pretend. They can't do a lot of imagination or pretend. So for them, everything. So if you say, pretending to be like a superstar or a hero, a superhero, they struggle, like playing dress up, feeding the dollies, putting them to sleep. You see that most of kids on the autism spectrum actually struggle with those kind of things. So if you see a child who cannot pretend play, who cannot do role play, who struggle to imagine things, you may also wonder whether they have autism spectrum disorder. And some of them also have this repetitive behavior. They do the same thing over and over again. You see them, they can do the same thing. Some of them, they spin around in circles. Some of them, they jump. Some of them flap their hands when they're excited.
Wow.
Some of them walk on their tiptoes. Some of them say some words. So, some will say maybe everything you tell them is no, they must say no. Or even when they don't mean it that way, even when they don't know the meaning of the words, they just use the words over and over again. So
does that mean they can be hyperactive as well?
They can be very busy, yeah. So it's different from ADHD, but the two of them can coexist together. But that's repetitive behavior is different from hyperactive behavior, but it's possible for them to have the two as well. And another thing is that children on the autism spectrum, they struggle with changes. So they like things to be done in a particular. So some of them, you tell them, if they normally go to school every Monday, of some of them, for example, during this lockdown, they're really going to struggle because they are used to a routine that every morning on a weekday I go to school and I come back. So all of a sudden you're not going to go to school. Some of them don't understand that. So you see some parents saying, like, for example, during the holidays, the children still want to wear school uniform because they are used to going to school. So they struggle with changes. Some of them, we should take them out on holidays. They can't sleep outside their house. You have to come back home because they can only sleep in their own home. They can't do sleeping. So it's not everybody, but these are some of the behavior you could see in children with autism. I just want to quickly run through some of the signs and we can go to the next set of questions. Okay. Another sign to see with children with autism spectrum disorder is that they have this unusual reaction. They have what we call sensory sensitivity. Sensory sensitivity means like they can be very sensitive to touch. For example, they can be very sensitive to the kind of clothes they wear. They only want to wear certain kind of clothes. And some of them like things that are soft texture, and they don't like hard clothes like jeans and all that. Some of them don't like haircuts. We call those kind of sensory sensitivity. Some of them are very particular about the food they eat, the kind of texture they will eat. Some of them like dry, hard food. So if you give them anything mushy like banana and things like that, they're not going to eat it. Some of them are so very particular about what they eat that they will only eat a particular brand. For example, some of the children will only eat maybe chips from McDonald's. They will never eat any other chips from any other. Even if you put it in McDonald's wrapper and you pretend that it's the one, they always know. They know
the difference.
They will know even with the wrapper. Some of them will never eat any food you've opened before, and some of them also have sound sensitivity. So any sound, they block their ears to certain sounds. For example, if the hand drying machine, the hand dryers, or the Hoover, or the washing machine, or the blender, you see them going like that, blocking their ears. Or some of them don't like crowded places. They want to escape from heat. Some of them also have light sensitivity. So they want either the light being too bright, or some of them want dark. Like if the light is too bright, they're like, it's hurting their eyes. And some of them cannot stay still. That's the hyperactivity you're talking about. They're always moving. They always want to jump. They always have this excess energy. They just must burn out. Some of them also have difficulty with sense of awareness of danger. So these are some of the sensory sensitivity that you can also pick up on kids who are on the autism spectrum disorder as well. So so when you see all these signs, then you begin to wonder, oh, does this child have autism spectrum disorder? And also some of them, they may have certain skills, and then suddenly they stop. So this is one of the major red flags, especially for those of us who are pediatricians. You see a child, parent will tell you this child was developing normally, was talking, was already saying baba, mama, and then at 18 months, then the child suddenly just stop talking, stop saying all those words. And parents cannot understand what's happening. It's a major, we call it regression. It's a major sign that you can pick up in children with autism spectrum disorder. So I've tried to give us as many signs as possible, but once again, I just want to let us know that none of these signs means this child has autism spectrum disorder. It's just like a red flag, if you can put it that way. And what that means is that you need to take this child to see a developmental pediatrician who can assess the child properly for you. So I will take some more questions, and then let me see if we can add Ololuwa back. So we take more questions, and then we'll go back to how do we diagnose autism spectrum disorder. Where am I now? Okay, yeah, I think. Okay, somebody say I'm late. You can watch the video all over again. The video is going to be permanently on our Facebook page. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. You can rewatch it on the play party. So don't worry. You can ask your question and watch again later. Okay, sorry. I'm not sure whether...
Olalu, are you there?
I'm trying to unmute his mic. Okay, so Adana I think she's just giving me updates that our child. Okay, I can't get it. Okay, yeah. Hello, are you there? Yeah, my child started talking 3 months before 5 years. Okay, I think Adana was just trying to tell us that our own child has some speech delay.
Yes. Yeah. Just to confirm with us that the child later talk.
Yes, I think we've got that. Okay. What can you read Antoniette's questions for us? I'm not sure Ololuwa is hearing us.
Okay, I think he's not hearing us.
Okay, go ahead, I think I'll just work with
Antoniette Onya says, please, ma, head with good management, you can help an autism to outgrown it. How do you manage an autism child?
Okay, I think the question is clear, even though hanging. So Antoinette wants me to talk about the management of autism spectrum disorder. It's one of the things I really want to talk about as well. Now, one of the words that you use, which is what most parents always ask us, is can a child outgrow autism spectrum disorder? The answer is no. So what we normally say is that once somebody is diagnosed with autism, we don't say they are cured. We don't say they stop being autistic. We don't say they have outgrown it. We deliberately don't use those terminologies. I'll tell you why. But we can manage autism. In other words, I've listed like certain characteristics for you. These are the signs that we see that make us say this child has autism or not. So, so we can help those children to overcome those difficulties. So, for example, a child who is not talking, they can have speech therapy and be able to talk. most of the children with autism struggle with social interaction, but they can learn it. You know, most of us take those things for granted, that your children should just know how to play with other children. We just take it for granted that they should be able to do this or that. But for children with the autism spectrum disorder, we have to deliberately teach them those skills. So the children can learn those skills. But the core features, the core things that make us to give a diagnosis of autism will still remain. So the children can learn how to overcome some of those things, but they're not going to be like, they will still have those their own those characteristics. For example, they may learn how to interact, but they may not be the overt extroverts and all of that. So they can overcome some of these difficulties, but it's not like everything is going to. So we tend not to use the word cure autism and all that, but we tend to talk about the fact that they can overcome those difficulties. So they can learn to overcome the difficulties. They can learn to be able to live like every other normal person, every other person. They can marry, they can go to school, they can work, they can do everything. But remember what I said about the fact that autism is a huge spectrum. So some children who have normal IQ, normal intelligence tend to do better, but children who also have developmental delays and intellectual disability tend not to do as great. But the goal is for every child to be independent so they can learn those skills. But we don't want parents to go ahead thinking, oh, this child has been cured of autism, because later on they may bring out some of those behavior, and you will now wonder, you begin to wonder, why is the child doing like this? So it's just important for us to understand that core characteristics stay with them for life, but they can learn to overcome some of their challenges. I think my moderators are struggling, so I'll just go ahead on my own. All right. So thank you, Juliana, for listening, for watching, and for enjoying the show. Okay. Oyin is if anyone is asking, is it wise to put children with autism in a normal school, and what are the chances of them having wholesome learning? Now, let's start by saying that most children with autism are going to go to regular school. They're going to go to mainstream school. They're going to go to normal school, like you put it. We call it mainstream school. So it depends. So like I said, 50% of the children with autism have normal intelligence, so they will do well in mainstream school. They may struggle with social interaction or things like that, making friends and all that, but they can learn and we can support them with that. But 50% of the children are going to go to mainstream schools. They don't need any special school. Now, there are other 50% who have additional needs. These are children who have developmental delay. These are the children who maybe have intellectual disability. These are children who have maybe what we call comorbidities or other difficulties as well. So those children may struggle to cope in a mainstream school, so they need additional support. And for those children who need those additional support, those are the ones that may need to go to a special school. But usually what we normally do is that when your pediatrician developmental pediatrician has assessed the child, then we'll be able to advise you, okay, is the child able to go to mainstream school and get support, these therapies and all the other people who come to school to support the child? I'm going to talk about what are the therapy available, or does the child need to go to a special school? So those are the things that we'll be discussing with you in terms of money. So there's no one size fits all when it comes to managing autism, and because autism itself is not one size fits all diagnosis, it's a spectrum. That's why the word autism spectrum disorders. So it's a spectrum. So children who are high functioning, very brilliant, even sometimes above average intelligence, they're going to go to mainstream school. They're going to go to university. They're going to become professors and all that. Yeah, but there are children who will not cope in that mainstream school. So those children need to go to school where they can get additional support. All right, we'll talk about the management. Hopefully our time is running out. Okay, I think I've answered that question. The same question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Adama. Can I read Adama question, ma?
Please go ahead, yeah.
Okay. My question, please, is there a link between autism and early puberty? My daughter is 5 years and 4 months due to the fact that she is still on pull-up. I noticed she started having public hair and armpit hair. breast bulges, more upper hair leaves. She was booked to see a specialist in 2 weeks, but due to the virus, the appointment in UK was postponed. Is it a good or bad thing? And is it possible she can start seeing her period? Thanks.
Yeah. So for this child you're talking about, is this, I think your child has some other additional challenges, let me put it that way. Possibly there's some endocrine disorder which we need to evaluate. It's not part of the autism, but what I'm trying to say that whatever genetic condition or whatever it is that may have may also be because that's why I have to take your question out. Those conditions may also explain why your child is having those early puberty and all that. So you don't need to worry about that. So just, it's not an emergency. Just wait and see your the specialist, the endocrinologist at the right time, and when you see them, they'll be able to investigate that. It may just be on his own. So okay, that's another thing I need to say. A child with autism, we also can also have all the other medical conditions every other child can have. So the fact that a child has autism does not mean the child cannot have malaria or cannot have other conditions that other children will have. It's just that sometimes it's very difficult for parents to know, because sometimes the children are not talking, they can't express their feelings and emotions. So sometimes it may be like they can't pick it up. So but they also have every other condition. So what I'm trying to say, Adana, is that condition may not necessarily be part of the autism. It may just be just like any other condition any other child can have who also doesn't have autism. But it's also possible there's a link. There may be a genetic condition that link up both the endocrine, the autism, and all that, because we have what we call syndromes. There are some things that are called syndromes, and when you have those kind of syndromes, they have multiple organ involvement. So they can cause autism, they can cause some other kidney problem. I think one of my patients has so many of those kind of conditions. In one single child, you have a kidney problem, you have autism, you have this, you have that. So it's possible to have those kind of scenarios. So initially it will involve many doctors managing such children. All right, let's move on because of our time. Oh, yeah, I think we've answered this question.
That you've answered. The next question is from Mimi Enyaba. Olalu, please, can you read? Hello, Olalu. Okay. Mimi says, my teenage autistic son suddenly develops the habit tugging his shirts every second. It's like he seems to have issues with the shirt, but he won't take it off. Please, what is the cause of this? Then again, he is always shy. Does it have anything to do with the fact that he is in puberty? Thirdly, please, what he loves playing with is his younger siblings so much. How can I minimize this? Because he is averse to mingling with other teenagers of age, except those in schools. Note, he is not.
Oh, so can you try and always keep your questions ask them in separate comments, because if you put all of them in one comment, my screen cannot display all of them.
Yeah.
Let me see whether I can read it from here. Even from here,
So,
Mimi.
yes.
So you know what? We'll just take the first one, and then you can ask us the third one, because we can't see the end of that third one. Now, number one,
Yes.
this type of tugging his chest, like I said, is just the part of the autism spectrum thing. They do repetitive behavior. So it is just part of the autism. And this is one of the reasons I was trying to say we don't say children with autism outgrow, because what they normally would do repetitively may change as they get older, but they may still have those repetitive behavior. So it's still part and parcel of his autism spectrum diagnosis. It doesn't mean you want to take it off. It's just a repetitive behavior. Just something sometimes they do it to regulate their own body. I don't want to go into the technicality of that, but it's something that we can explain medically, but it's something that children with autism spectrum do. Sometimes you may give them some alternatives, maybe something else in his hand that I can fidget with, and if he's doing that, then that will make it take away the pulling of the chair. So you go for something else, maybe more acceptable than something that is not as acceptable. And then is being shy, that is part of autism. Parents call it shy, but it's actually what I meant by the difficulty with social interaction. So children on the autism spectrum, whether teenagers, young children, they struggle with social interaction. They struggle to make friendship. They struggle to sustain their friendship. So it is part and parcel of the core autism diagnosis. And of course, they will play with people they are comfortable with. And some children also who, especially for those of them who have developmental disability or developmental delay, in other words, their mental age is actually lower than their chronological age, they tend to play with younger children. Or it may not just be that, it may just be that they favor younger children. So that may be why he's playing with his younger sibling, because he's comfortable with them and he knows them very well. So this is one of the things we do when we come to management. Management is about making sure that you support this child to learn social skills, to learn how to interact with teenagers, his own age mate, and learn how to do certain things. So it is part of what we need to be doing as part of the management of autism. So it needs that support to be able to do that. It's not going to come naturally to them, but it's something they can learn. It's something they can do with support. All right. I think that's the last question we have. Okay. Hopefully, yes. So I'll just finish going back to, I've talked about the signs of autism, and then I'm just going to talk about how do we diagnose autism. Diagnosis of autism is by doing what we call developmental assessment. And this developmental assessment, we can do it as early as 18 months. Sometimes we diagnose children as early as 1 year for those who already have children with autism already. Okay, so Ololua, can you hear me now? It seems like you're better off now. Oh, okay, great. Nice to have you with us. All right, so we can diagnose autism as early as 18 months. So I've given you all those signs, but just to let you know that each of those signs on its own does not mean the child has autism, but it just means that we need to evaluate the child further for possible autism spectrum disorder. And so if you see any of those signs that we talked about, what you need to do is to take your child to see a pediatrician, ideally a developmental pediatrician. So there are many of them. Apart from developmental pediatrician, we can, a child neurologist, some of them can also make diagnosis of autism. Child psychologists, psychiatrists, these are the people that can make diagnosis of autism. Please don't allow your child to be diagnosed by people who are not professionals, because sometimes people mix up all the different developmental conditions. So things like Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism, people sometimes confuse them. I can understand why it is possible, because there are some features that tend to look alike in all of these developmental conditions, but they are different. So for example, all the three children, Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, all of them can have speech delay. All of them can talk late. So some people just think, oh, it is autism or it is cerebral. No, there are ways by which the professionals know that this talking late is autism, or this talking late is cerebral palsy, or this talking late is Down syndrome. So, but I see a lot of mothers asking questions. They start, from the way they talk, you can see that they are mixing up this diagnosis. So it is important that the children are diagnosed early. If you are not sure, there are some screening tools that are available, like I forgot the name of the one. There's a screening tool for autism that is available online that you can use. It's available for all parents that you can just use, and then you can, it's just basically asking you some of those questions that we have listed, all those signs. So basically it's a yes or it's a no. So they look at how many of those red flag signs that your child has, and depending on how many of them that your child has, then they will tell you your child needs further assessment or your child doesn't need further assessment. But it's important that parents give the right answer, because that it is what you put in that to tell you. So sometimes parents are like being nice, or even the teachers, they are being nice. So when you are being nice, then you are likely, the question is not all going to come back normal, and then your child doesn't get to be assessed. So, but the earlier the better. Early intervention is very key for management of autism. Early intervention is very key. Okay, I'm going to miss your mics because of the echoing. So early intervention is very, very important for management of autism spectrum disorder. And what are those early intervention? Speech therapy. So if a child is not talking, we'll start speech therapy. And I always tell parents, for us, it doesn't matter why the child is not talking. You don't need a diagnosis to get therapy. The most important thing is that if your child is not talking, go for speech therapy. Some of those sensory sensitivity I talked about, like the blocking their heads to loud noises, not wanting to eat certain food, or other developmental delays, occupational therapists are quite supportive. They can also help. And then in terms of the behavior, then we have behavior therapies. Those are things that this is the time where they start teaching these children all these things. And we found out that when we start therapy early, usually by the age of 3 years, then the children's chances of doing much better is higher than if you are diagnosing them like age of 5, 6, 7. So the early, because during the early years, before the age of 5, the children's brain are also what we call plastic. So in other words, the brain adapts faster and better to any input to it. So children can do better with early intervention. That is one of the message that I'm trying to pass across. Like if you pick up those signs in your children, one of the major things that Nigerians do, especially for those who are Nigerian listening to me, is that we always wish it away. And people will tell you, oh, it's just a boy. Yeah, boys talk late. And all those kind of things. So, and then sometimes people, even some of my colleagues, doctors, I'm also talking to us as well. So mothers worry and they will go to the doctors and doctor, oh, don't worry, you are too worried. You should be worried as a mom. If you pick up any of those signs, it's better you just let the child be screened first. And then when you do that, it's better than for us to say, okay, we've screened this child, we've assessed this child, there's no problem, than for you to delay intervention. So some people will be asking at age of 4 years, at age of 3 years, the child is not yet talking, and they are just still thinking, oh, he's talking late. And some of them will tell you it's because even me, I didn't talk until I was 5 years old, I didn't talk until I was 7 years old. Some people will talk late normally, excuse me, but not to stop the child from getting intervention if it's necessary. So the key message is that if you pick up any of those signs, please, please, please let your child be assessed, and then you can get the right support for the child. Okay. And currently, when it comes to treatment, there is no cure for autism. I know many parents are going to be disappointed with that because people want cure, people want quick fixes. But when it comes to autism and some of the developmental conditions we treat, one of the first things I always tell my patients is that it's a long walk, it's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. There's no quick fix. I don't have any drug that I'm going to write for you and then it's going to fix everything. I always like to let parents know that right from the beginning, because most of the charlatans, most of the people that that deceive parents is because of this kind of, they give them the promise of with everything's going, if you just take this drug or these supplements or this blah blah blah, everything is going to disappear. Lies. So I always tell parents it's a long journey. You have to be prepared for it, because when parents are aware and they themselves are psychologically ready to support their children, the children do better. But when parents are looking for a quick fix, then they means they will not stick to speech therapy. So you see parents do speech therapy for 1 month, then they expect that the child is going to will start talking. No, speech therapy is not a month, it's years we are talking about. Occupational therapy is not a month, it's not a week. These things are not going to cure the child. They are only going to give the child skills to be able to do things. So I always want my parents to know that. So there's no cure for autism, but we can give intervention. We can do speech therapy. We can do occupational therapy. We can do behavioral therapy. And I know some parents are worried about vaccines. So I decided I'm going to talk about that. Some people say, I don't want to take MMR because they say MMR causes autism. This has been proven to be lies. MMR does not cause autism. No vaccine causes autism. So one of the things I always tell my parents that some of them will come to me and like, oh, I didn't take MMR because they say MMR causes autism, but your child already has autism anyway, even though you didn't take MMR. So where did the child get it from? So that tells you that it is not MMR. So we have children who didn't take MMR and they have autism, and you have children who took MMR and they didn't have autism. So it is not a vaccine that caused the problem. So in summary, we are finished. Our time is gone. What we're saying is that autism spectrum disorder is a developmental condition. It's something that happens. We think there may be some genetic thing. We think there may be some biologic factor, we think there's some environmental factor, but nobody is 100% certain what causes autism. Autism is not curable, it's not something you grow out of, but it is something that can be managed. With the right treatment, speech therapy support, you can. And I always tell parents, you are your child first therapist. You are the one that really needs to support your child. With your own support, then your child is going to do quite well. So I think we're just going to end it here. I'll go for the last question. Lookman is just coming in. No problem. If you are just coming in, that's not a problem. You can, I've talked about the symptoms of autism. I've talked about the signs of autism. You can just watch this video all over again. It's going to be available here on YouTube, everywhere. So you can just watch it again, and you can read and understand. So we'll stop here. If you have any more questions, not a problem. Feel free to post it on our Facebook page, our Facebook group, and then we will be able to answer you. So I think we'll stop it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, it's the World Autism Day, and we've been talking about autism, and we've been able to answer some of our questions as related to autism. So, Abimbola.
Thank you so much for having me, Ma.
Okay. Mr. Olua, let's hear your voice. We can't hear you. I don't know. I think we have some technical difficulty with your line or with your connection. We just seem not to be able to hear you. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. We apologize for all the technical difficulties we had, but I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you now know a little bit more about autism, and be a supporter for children with autism. Understand them, don't bully them. Please, let's teach our children to support and to accept other children who may not necessarily be like them. It is very, very important that we do that. So on that note, I say happy World Autism Day. Thank you, Alimat. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, Oyi, for staying with us. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.